Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon the Holy Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, and his immaculate progeny. Dear brothers and sisters all over the world, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to yet another edition from series of Quran in Today's Life. In this series of shows, we're trying to have a thematic exegesis of the Holy Quran. For those who are interested in taking some practical lessons from the divine teachings of the Quran, the Book of Allah. In our recent shows, we started a discussion on the spirituality in Quran. The ways toward perfection are discussed here in this show. In this very show, inshallah, we shall be talking about the stages toward perfection, which are needed to be known by a salik, by someone who is going to take this way toward the perfection. As the first prerequisite of this journey, we talk about in fact, one of the important principles toward perfection and self-purification, that was performing obligatory actions which are in fact prescribed by the holy Sharia or divine religion, and also abandoning haram things or prohibited things. The rest of our discussion will be about the stages which are needed to be known by a salik, by someone or a traveler who is a beginner on the way of perfection toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For this, we are joined by a respected scholar, Sheikh Hujjatullah Dawoodi from prestigious Hawza Ilmiya of Qom. Before starting our discussion and asking him the first question, I'd like to welcome him to the show and say salam to him and thank him for his accepting our invitation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Dawoodi. If you remember, we have been talking about the, in fact, self-purification and its prerequisites. We talked about the principle idea which was needed to be known by a traveler in this way. And that was, in fact, performing obligatory actions, performing wajibat, and abandoning muharramat or haram things, or what is prohibited by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for a traveler, a beginner, what else should he know? What stages should he pass?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khayri khalqihi Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. As far as I remember, we mentioned about the importance and significance of self-purification.
That's true.
So, also we mentioned some words and some verses of Holy Quran, some words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which shows us the importance of them. And also I gave some examples of these verses. So, the mission of the prophets that has been, briefly said in 3 words.
Yeah.
They want to يُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. So the word purification, and after that teach the people the book and also the hikmah, wisdom. Also we mentioned something, I think this is very important. I mentioned it, and after that we go to those stages that you mentioned. The Holy Prophet Abraham, which is the father of all of the religions.
Divine religions.
Yeah, divine religions. That nowadays some people call them Abrahamic religions, from Islam to Jews and Christianity. We say that he also, prayed toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his son and for himself. He said, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send some prophet from his, sons, someone that يُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. There is a very, very special difference between the words of God and the words of Abraham in the Holy Quran. When we refer to the words of God, God said, I sent some prophet to you. يُذَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. Purification has been come before يُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. So means purification is very important.
Yes.
But when we refer to words of Abraham, we say that Abraham has, bring those, يُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ prior to يُزَكِّيهِمْ.
What's the reason?
When we refer to Holy Quran, we find out that because he knows, Abraham knows the importance of tazkiyah, but he didn't know which is of the prior. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to show us they are very important. They are the missions of the Prophet. But tazkiyah comes before, purification comes before and prior than
knowledge.
The knowledge.
Very true.
So we say it is very important to purify ourselves, and said very beginning that everyone should know is to do whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to do, and to forget and not to do stop everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbid us from doing them.
That's true.
So this is the very, very general one. But
Exactly.
we refer to some stages that Gnostics, and Urafa say that if you want to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through this way you can reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Say the very, very beginning one is called awakening.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean? It means that, does it mean that we are asleep? These kind
Are
of
these things that you are to enumerate are a set of, stages that one should pass one by one? Or no, they just, some concept and notions?
No. I think these are stages that if you didn't pass the first one, you cannot reach the second one. And if you do not pass the second one, you won't reach the third one.
So, the rule, or let's say principle that we mentioned earlier, that is performing obligatory acts, was a prerequisite to entrance of these stages.
Yeah. We say all of these stages, will show us which is important, which is not. So because without these stages, we cannot do exactly the same as I told you before, that we cannot do every obligatory or stop every prohibited actions.
Right.
Because without, for example, the first stage, without awakening,
Okay.
if I don't know who am I, what is God, what is the reason of our creation, why God has created us, if I am asleep, I cannot understand it. So I do not act whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us. So awakening is very important. I think these stages has covered, that core of the matter.
Is this awakening from, let's say, a period of being asleep?
I think it is a kind of practice for ourselves. It is not like a sleep or something like this. I think it is kind of understanding.
That's true.
For example, if
Awakening from what?
awakening means being aware of why we are created, why we are in this world. So we say nowadays in some schools of thought in the West, they believe in humanism. What does humanism say? Humanism say that the man is the core of everything, without divided from, the God or something like that. But here it is different. We say awakening means to understand, our dignity. Say the dignity of man has been emphasized in Islam so much. So being awake, being aware, being aware of this importance, it means the awakening, not awakening from a sleeping or something
So
like
in
this.
fact, it means a sort of awakening from, let's say, ignorance that we had earlier.
Exactly. Yes.
Ignorance about our own selves. So what else one should know about the awakening? What should we do? What should we observe here in this period? in this
Yes.
stage?
So when we refer to some words of Urafa, they say these are some preliminaries of reaching a very important goal. So before we have to do that, for example, if we want to reach somewhere, we need to take a car, take a bus, take a taxi, or so on. So my goal is not traveling, but traveling is one of the ways to reach there. So my goal is reaching there, but through some ways. Awakening is one of these, we say means
That's
of
true.
our travel. We are on a travel to reach God, to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to reach perfection. So through this travel, through this journey, we have to pass different stages. The first and most important one is awakening, because we know in which step, in which way we are stepping in.
Well, you pinpointed the behavior of Gnostics and Urafa and this sort of people to clarify the concept of awakening. Can we ask if we have any Quranic evidence or traditional, by traditional I mean from hadith point of view, hadith from the prophetic side or Imam side, just to emphasize on this notion or just say something in this stage of in fact awakening?
Yes. When we say the Gnostics and Urafa has said this, some people think that they have put something from themselves and they add it to the religion and say that the religion is the way that we should.
Because variety of Gnostics and Urafa, they should be afraid of such a thing.
Yeah.
They should refer to the divine teachings and genuine teachings of the Prophet and Imams.
But when we refer to some words of our infallible Imams, from the words of the Holy Prophet, we understand that we have some proof over this awakening. Mm-hmm. For example, we refer to some words of one of our infallible Imams, "An-nasu niyamun idha matu intabihu." So he says that all of the people are completely in sleep. They are asleep. إِذَا مَاتُوا انْتَبِهُوا. When they die, they now will be aware. They understand that what. So we say that there are some people that they are living, but they do not understand what is happening for them. Yes. So when we refer to these words of our infallible Imam, we completely understand that they give an example as a person who is asleep. النَّاسُ نُيَامٌ. The people are asleep. Mm-hmm. So we should, aware of the journey of the way, and also we have to get up. Mm-hmm. We have to get up.
So that much for the proof from a prophetic side, or let's say, a document in the traditions and the hadith, just to justify that awakening is emphasized by the, in fact, conduct and sunnah of the Prophet and Imams. What stage is after awakening, and what other, information one should have had in this stage are the subject of our question, which we ask you to answer, inshallah, after a very short break. We have a short break. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a few seconds. Welcome back to Quran and Today's Life and our discussion about the spirituality from a Quranic point of view. And more specifically, we have been talking about the, in fact, stages of self-purification. We have been talking about the first stage, awakening, and before, in fact, moving to the next stage, which is which is needed to be known by a traveler, by a salik. I want to ask a question from the respected expert of this show, Sheikh Dawoodi, and this is about the awakening. I hope it will be the last question in this stage. Does this stage happen very easily? Getting to this stage is quite, tangible for someone, or no? It requires a lot of endeavor and attempt.
A very good question, of course, because the people say, I understand that, awakening is very important, and we have to get up, and find out our ways. But is it difficult or very easy, or how can it happen to us? A very nice question. Of course, yes. The first, when we refer to some verses of Holy Quran, we say that a very big part of the Holy Quran is related to Ma'ad, resurrection. It is related to the death.
That's true.
So if we consider that we sometimes will die, can people do the same as they are doing right now? Of course not. For example, a person who knows that sometimes, for a student who is studying in university, if he believes that someday he has the exam, and the exam is the beginning of another stage and going to a higher level, how this student study?
Mm-hmm.
Does he or she study the same
The
as?
quality of study differs then.
Of course, yeah. So when we exactly remember and remind and mention death inside our mind and find out that at the end of this world we will die and we will shift to another world.
And we will be resurrected then.
Of course. It is one of the most important ways that make us awaken.
Mhm.
So when we refer to some verses of Holy Quran and also some words of infallible Imams, we understand that it will sometimes will happen to us.
Mhm.
For example, sometimes when we get sick badly, seriously,
Mhm.
you see that some people they understand that there is a God. They have to pray to Him, okay? And they ask Him for a better life or something. So we see that sometimes in our illnesses, we understand that there is a God. So it is one of the ways that we become awake.
Mhm.
So sometimes when we refer to words of Urafa, they say when you get sick, it shows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to make you awaken from your sleep.
Mhm.
So they say it is a very good sign.
Okay, we know that Allah's blessings are abundant and unlimited. So how come that Allah created us not awakened, from the very beginning? Why are we, in fact, in a state of ignorance rather than awakening?
Mhm.
And so that we strive to this stage of awakening.
I think it is not because of Allah Himself.
Mm.
It is because of ourselves.
Mhm.
We are in this world.
Yeah.
We have a very specific goal for our life. But sometimes we forget our goal.
Very
So,
true. Very
because
good.
we forget and we go deeply through our material world, material life,
Mhm.
we forget our target.
Mhm.
So,
So it has nothing to do with Allah's graciousness
exactly,
and abundance.
I give an example, like a taxi driver or a driver. Sometimes we start talking to the person who is sitting beside us, and we start talking and we forget, we have passed our,
Very true, yeah, very beautiful.
goal.
Okay, regarding the second stage, what is it? How should we pass the first stage, and when do we understand that, the first stage is over
Okay.
and we are ready to enter the second?
Yes, I want to mention that something will happen inside our life that make us awaken. So this is the first stage. Like I said, illness. Sometimes or sometimes say that one of our relatives or a person who is so close to us, my friend or so on, dies. So when we mention and reminded death inside our mind, it makes us, awaken.
Mm.
Another things, sometimes we meet a very specific person. Through this meeting, we discuss something that, of course, that person so every Gnostics that you refer to their words, they say that, from the time that I met that person, my teacher or so and so on, he made me completely different from what I were.
Exactly.
So we see that sometimes meeting a person make us awaken. And also we say that it is very easy.
Yeah.
Awakening is not so difficult and it is very easy. But it needs our will, it needs our determination.
Mhm.
And also we have to know that this is a journey. This is not our goal. I said sometimes we want to reach somewhere, so the way that we are passing is not our goal. It is the way to reach there. So
true.
traveling from this country to another country. So what is my goal? Reaching to that country.
Mhm.
But sometimes I take a car, take a bus, maybe take an airplane. So the way is just, inside the journey. It is not our goal. Our
Yes.
goal is reaching there.
Oh.
And also, this word is our only chance. Because up to the time that we are alive, we can do something to reach perfection. Yeah?
Yeah.
If we die, we have nothing to do.
Mhm.
Everything has finished. So this is our first, choice and
the only opportunity that you have in this
exactly.
world. Okay.
I again gave an example of the person who is a student. He has a very, very specific time to study. If the time passes and it is the time of exam, there is no other time. They do not postpone the exam for a student who hasn't studied yet.
Very true.
Yeah. So we say we should take care and take benefit of this word. Al-fursatu tamurru marra as-sahab. We refer to the words of Imam Ali alayhi salam. He said we should take benefit of our time, the world that we are living in. So sometimes when we refer to words of infallible Imams and also Holy Prophet, they say that when we are living and our life is a bounty from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why? Because we have enough time. I gave an example. So you suppose that two soccer teams are playing together and the time is going to be passed and nobody has goal through the other. So when the coach gave them the extra time, they will be so happy because it is another opportunity, to reaching their goal.
Yeah. Still, I'm asking about the second stage and how we understand that we past the first stage and we enter the second. And what is the second stage, firstly?
Yes, the second one, I think, the second one is understanding, self-understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I do not understand myself, my ability or something like this, how can I reach perfection?
That's
the
true.
second one is, so man arafa nafsa faqad arafa rabbah. If I want to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first of all, I should understand myself. So it is very important.
We have plenty of questions on what this self is, and I don't know whether this show give us that much time to talk about it or not. But I'm still going to be back to my previous question, which I think was left unanswered. And that was, where from do we understand that we have passed the first stage and we are entering the second? Is there any limit? Is there any sign that I myself understand as a traveler, okay, that much for awakening, that it's okay, let's start the second phase, second stage?
Yes. I think if all the time, whatever we are doing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is as a special sign in our mind, so it shows that we have passed the second stage, the first stage, sorry. It means because all the time I am mentioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inside our mind, it means that I am aware of whatever I am doing.
Okay.
So mentioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a very good sign that I have passed the first stage.
That's true.
And the second one is very easy. I should understand the dignity of man, myself, why I am here. So we refer to some words of Imam alayhi salam. They say we have to understand three why. Why I have been created, why I am here, and where I am going. So it is very important that I understand, for three where. From where I have come, where I am now, and where do I go in future. So three where, So we say these are the most important goals of our life. So understanding myself from these questions is very important too.
Okay. Now, you said understanding self or self-understanding.
Yes.
What does this self mean? I think we need plenty of less time to talk about this self, but just to, in fact, have a very brief introduction of this self, I think we have some 2 or 3 minutes to finalize our discussion.
One of the most important things to exactly mention about this self, understanding this self, is to take use of the others' experiences. The people, they may have some experiences that they have been successful on their ways. So referring to their life, studying, or finding out how they have passed this stage, it is very important. So in the second stage, understanding of self, it is, I am a person like this. How this person was successful, I should do the same as that one. So take use of the other's experiences. Very important.
In bringing up the self or one's self or oneself, do we have any Quranic teachings or any instructions on behalf of the prophetic side or imams? Just how can we bring up, this self, and how can we know this self better?
Yes. In Holy Quran, there is a verse that recommends us to study about both inside our body, and also to study the universe completely. So Urafa, they call it a special journey toward inside our body, and also our Afa wa Anfus. There is a journey for the universe and also the journey inside my body. Why? Because I want to understand what am I and how small this man is. Myself is very, very, very small. It's not so great. So if I understand it, and now I can understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not created us aimlessly.
For those, as Lara's suggestion, for those who are watching this and they are afraid of, in fact, being trapped in the, wrong sort of Gnosticism, what kind of suggestion do you have? Even they may be in doubt of this show that, where from are they taking these instructions from? Is it from Quran? Is it from Hadith? Or is it just from, the experiences of people who have already, in fact, practiced themselves and reached to some conclusions? What kind of suggestion do we have for those people?
I think, I told you that there is a need inside our body, and we should fulfill the need. We should, give an answer to our need, of course. So I think because they do not know the way that A'immah and infallible Imams has shown us, they go astray. If we let them...
How can they distinguish between the wrong ways and true ways?
I think, the most important one is we have to put a milestone for us. And we find out if we are closing to that milestone or not. If we are closing to that target or not. Our target is the Word of God.
Very true.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Exactly.
So this is our milestone, If we see that every action that we are, doing, is it getting us closer and closer to God or not? If we are going closer to God, we understand that, the way is a correct way. It is not right. If not, of course, we understand that, we are misleading. We have been misguided.
That's true. Thank you very much, Sheikh Dawoodi, for your, in fact, beautiful elaborations on the issue. We are still on the second stage, that is self-understanding, and different issues have been left uncovered on this stage. Inshallah, we shall be continuing the second stage and other stages in our next shows. And you, respected viewers, thanks again for staying tuned with this show. We hope to be able to continue our discussion and reach to the last stage of it, not only theoretically as in these shows go, but also inshallah practically. And we hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us among those real and genuine travelers who are going to strive toward perfection. Thanks again. Inshallah, we'll be with you with the rest of our discussion in our next show. Till then, have a very good time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.